Growing Pains. Growing Pains was an American TV show about the difficulties of the Seaver family of 5 that expanded to 6 in season 4 and then again to 7 in the 7th and final season. It centers around a dad struggling to parent the children he shared with his wife, who decided to go back to work outside the home as a journalist. The 7 seasons aired from September of 1985 all the way through April of 1992 on ABC, and it grabbed America's heart in its first and second season, winning the 1987 Best Family Comedy Series category. No doubt that success was due to the A-list stars that were cast in the show. What have those stars been up to, and what are they doing now? Here's the answer, starting with Alan Thicke. He already had a regular gig in the entertainment arena, hosting Canadian game shows starting in 1975. Then, in the United States, he started making appearances in TV shows such as It's Our Stuff, Masquerade, and The Love Boat, as well as hosting The Alan Thicke Show from 1980 to 1982, and Thick of the Night for one season. Then, in 1985, he got his big break, landing the role of Dr. Jason Seaver on The Growing Pains. His role as Jason Seaver was a psychiatrist who moved his practice from Long Island General Hospital to his home so that he could keep an eye on the kids while his wife went to work outside the home. Now, what I liked about his character is that it was unlike most of the portrayals of dads on sitcoms prior to that show, where the dad did everything right. It just wasn't realistic to me. Not to say that the shows weren't good, because they were, but Growing Pains was refreshing. With Jason Seaver, the respect from his kids, they weren't automatic, and he wasn't always right. He had the right balance. He was authoritative when he needed to be, yet approachable and even humorous most times. He also appeared in a long list of television shows, of which some included Bold and the Beautiful. And I find this ironic that on The Bold and the Beautiful, he was cast as Rich Ginger, a host. Of course, it wasn't a game show host, but it was a talk show host nonetheless. He also guest starred on How I Met Your Mother and in This Is Us as himself. He also made an appearance as himself on Hanging with the Cooper pilot. And that's because of the fact that Hanging with Mr. Cooper was the set for Hanging with Mr. Cooper was the same as the set used for Growing Pains. He also made an appearance a few times on the original The Love Boat as himself once, and on 2 other occasions as 2 different characters. A few episodes of Married with Children. And did you know he composed the theme song for both The Facts of Life and Different Strokes? I absolutely did not know that piece of information. He also did a theme song for, what's the name of that show? I love it to pieces. Wheel of Fortune. And it's not the theme of the show that you see today. It was for the first 7 seasons that it ran. He did that theme song. We know that Wheel of Fortune ran for a long time. It's still on, by the way. So he did the first 7 seasons. He's not responsible for the one you hear today. Unfortunately, however, we no longer have Alan Thicke with us today. In 2016, while at the age of 69, he was playing a game of ice hockey with his son Carter from one of his marriages, and he collapsed. And though he was stabilized by the paramedics and was found joking with his son, around 3 hours later that day, he did die of an aortic dissection. He is missed. Moving on to Joanna Kearns, cast as Maggie Seaver. She was a journalist who, after having her kids, decided to go back to work after she stayed home for a while in their tender years. Before her Growing Pains character, she was in episodes of like Starsky and Hutch. And Growing Pains is considered her biggest gig in the television industry. While she was casting in Growing Pains, she also starred in television films such as Blind Faith and No One Could Protect Her. And after Growing Pains, she started directing, starting with one of the episodes of Growing Pains. It was the one of the two Growing Pain reunion movies. Moving on to Kirk Cameron as Mike Seaver. This guy was a witty teen heartthrob who often got into trouble, and his character drew the fans to the show. At least that was initially. Prior to and during his time as Mike Seaver on Growing Pains, he made a few television appearances, such as on Full House, the movie Starflight, The Plane That Couldn't Land, Like Father, Like Son, Listen to Me. And he also did a couple of after school specials. Oh man, I used to love those specials. Coming home from school, doing my homework in front of the television. I also did the same thing when I was going through college. I know that was bad, but it was okay. I still passed with no problems. Bad example though. And like Tracy Gold, as mentioned, Kirk Cameron also guest starred in his siblings' gig. In 1988, he starred in Full House, the episode entitled Just One of the Guys. He was the cousin of DJ Tanner, which was played by Candace Cameron, his sister. Excuse me. He also went from being, during his time on Growing Pains, he went from being an atheist to being a Protestant Christian during that time on the show. And that decision actually prompted erratic behavior and decisions from Kirk Cameron. At least that's how his cast members and fans took it. He allegedly started insisting that changes be made on the set or to the scenes to remove what he deemed inappropriate things. And one of those changes included Julie McCullough, who played as the Seavers' nanny. And to this day, Julie holds on to the claim that Kirk was responsible for her firing because of his disapproval of her nude Playboy pictures. She claimed that he told the producers that hiring her meant that they were promoting pornography. I don't know. Maybe they didn't want the bad press, thinking he would have something to say about it, or maybe it was because they thought he would walk. And like I said initially, he was the one really drawing the people in. I do think, however, after all of this fanatic religious thing on his part, that kind of changed, because we know around that time, shortly after that, the ratings for the show started going down. Now, after Growing Pains, Kirk Cameron continued acting, but he wasn't doing that much. In addition to his doing the two Growing Pain movies, he also appeared in documentaries based on his life and based on evangelism, movies such as Fireproof. Also, after Growing Pains aired its last episode, for a while, Kirk didn't have contact with any of his past cast members. And that was due to his beliefs, and due to them as well, because of the refusal to live their lives based on his newfound Christianity. In an interview that the cast had with, I can't remember the guy's name, people. I really can't remember. I'm looking at the man. He's like a scrawny man. He wears glasses. I can't think of his name. But they were in an interview on his show. And Joanna Kearns was the one who actually said it, that it was more because of his trying to put off his beliefs on everybody else. And she stressed that everybody has that option, have that choice for themselves to believe what they want to believe. And that's not how Mike was handling it. It was him forcing his beliefs on others and expecting everybody else to make that same change that he was making. So that's where that distance came in. And so all that erupted from that. But 8 years later, Kirk apologized for how he handled his newfound Christianity at the time. He realized that he could have handled the situation a whole lot differently than what he did so as not to be hurtful to his cast member. And of course, he was referring to the fact that he didn't extend an invitation to his cast members to the wedding in 1991. Today, Kirk is still involved in evangelical work. I don't know if it's as extensive as it was. I'm sure it is because you still see headlines about him, and it's kind of controversial. So I just don't want to get into that type of stuff. But anyway, he's still involved in that work, and just recently he has expanded his Story Hour tour, featuring his book entitled "As You Grow," which is a faith-based book about the fruit of the Spirit based on Genesis. The book of Galatians in the Bible. Moving on to Tracy Gold, cast as Carol Seaver. She was the middle child until that fourth season with the new addition to the family. Her character was the quirky bookworm of the family who, though she was often seen engrossed in a book, she wanted others to see her as a pretty girl instead of the smart one. Before landing the role of Carol Seaver, she appeared in a couple of movies and a number of popular TV shows such as Missy Ann Reynolds in Roots miniseries. She also appeared in 8 is Enough. I love that show. Fantasy Island, again, I looked at that. Another good one, Trapper John MD, good indeed, as well as some other things. Now, did you know 2 things about Tracy Gold and her acting career? She was cast to play a recurring role on Gimme a Break in 1981. I did not know that, but they had actually cast her to play as the youngest daughter, the tomboyish daughter, Samantha Koniski. But right before the show started production, they replaced her with someone else. They replaced her with Laura Miller. Another good fact is that she wasn't initially selected to play the role of Carol Seaver. I mean, she tried out for the part, but someone named Elizabeth Ward actually got the job over her, and Elizabeth actually started doing some of the pilot episodes. However, they called Gold back to encourage her to re-audition, which she didn't want to do, she said initially, but her father encouraged her to go ahead and do the audition again, and she did, and she got the part replacing Elizabeth. While on Growing Pains, she continued appearing in other TV series and movies such as Benson, where she played as Laura, Katie's cousin, who happens to be her baby sister, Missy Gold. I know there's been some stories out there about Missy Gold. Some people wondering if she's on a washed up list, but actually Missy Gold isn't on a washed up list. Missy Gold walked away from the industry because she preferred to take a different road. That's a whole nother story. So she's not a washed up person. She's actually has been doing quite well for herself. But anyway, Gold also has been played in Dance Till Dawn as Angela Stroll. Now, before appearing on Growing Pains, she struggled with weight issues due to pressure from stardom as a whole. And in 1980, when she was 11 years of age, she was actually diagnosed with early stage anorexia nervosa. And at the time, it wasn't that popular. Meaning not too many people really knew much about anorexia. And though she got the condition under control, the pressure from growing pains opened that disease, that door to that disease to her again, as the writers of Growing Pain decided to make her the butt of fat jokes when she gained a few pounds. And it's so sad because with no regard for her mental state. I mean, they had already known about her weight issues, but despite that, they used her weight gain to their advantage, having it where her onstage brothers actually make her the butt of jokes. Now, Joanna realized what was going on with Tracy Gold, and the rest of the cast actually rallied around her, and Joanna was responsible for her getting the help she needed. At that time, the producers then suspended her from the show. And they said it was because they wanted her to focus on the help that she needed. But that disease actually caused her to miss most of the final season. Although she did return for the last episode, even though she wasn't quite recovered. And it wasn't until after the show went off the air that she actually got the treatment she needed and started to improve. Today, she's doing great. She is still acting, and her latest appearance was on a reality TV series called Worst Cooks in America, where she was the winner of her season. Now, along with acting, she's currently also spending time with her family, which includes her hubby, Robbie Marshall, and her four boys, Sage, Bailey, Aiden, and Dylan. And she also publicly speaks on eating disorders and body imaging issues to young women. Next, we have Jeremy Miller, who played Ben Seaver. He was the youngest until the fourth season with the birth of Chrissy Seaver. Now, his character was that of what we see in many big families today, where you have that annoying little brother that acts out because of being the youngest and feeling left out of things. But of course, that transferred to Chrissy when she came on. She started feeling that way. But anyway, back to Jeremy. Before Growing Pains, he did have a recurring guest role as Jimmy on the popular show Punky Brewster. Loved it. I loved Punky Brewster. I loved it, loved it, loved it. Now, since Growing Pains, Jeremy hasn't done much in the acting industry, along with a handful of movies in addition to the two Growing Pains movies. He's also done some voiceover gigs, with the most popular ones being that of Charlie Brown, Linus and Charlie Brown, as well as Scooby-Doo and Alien Invaders. His very thin resume may have something to do with his mentally abusive stepfather, which he spoke about in one of those, I don't know if it's a YouTube or something that Kirk Cameron had. And he had the two of them, Tracy Gold and Jeremy, come over. And in that episode, Jeremy actually spoke on he referred to him as a step idiot, which he says resulted in him turning to alcohol to numb his mental and emotional pain. Currently, Jeremy is a spokesperson for alcohol rehabilitation, and he tried pairing his passion for cooking with his passion for acting on some show in China. I have not heard of it coming to fruition, and I couldn't pull anything up on it, so I don't know if he was successful in that or not. I'm assuming not, because we all know we live in an age of information, so if it was, it would be right there at our fingertips, and I have not been able to pull anything out. Anyway, his most recent acting job was in 2021 as Detective Derek in True to the Game 3. I like that series. I did see a couple of them. I don't think I saw the third one, however, but the first two I did see. Really good movies. Moving on to Ashley Johnson as Chrissy Seaver, the baby of the family. She was the newest biological addition to the Seaver family. Her character entered as a cheerful but witty 5-year-old and remained a part of the show until its final season in 1992. Since being on Growing Pains, she did manage to remain busy in the industry. She's done some voiceovers, such as Jeremy did, but she did much, much more. I know she did she was Tara in Teen Titans. She was also Gretchen Grundler in Recess, among some others. She also starred in some A-list movies, freckles and all. She played as Annie Warbuck on ABC, the sequel to the 1982 movie Annie, A Royal Adventure. She also played in one of my favorite movies, What Women Want, as Mel Gibson's daughter, Alex Marshall. I loved that movie. And I don't think the black version of the movie did it justice. I did happen to see that. But I do really love What Women Want. And she also played in The Avengers as a waitress named Beth. And she had some roles on TV shows such as Blind Spot, which she played in from 2015 through 2020 as what did she play as? As an FBI forensic specialist on the show. And she is still acting today with additional seasons of her gigs scheduled to come out for this year in 2023. I think it comes out in May, but I might be thinking of something else. But I do know for sure it comes out in 2023. Next, we're moving on to Leonardo DiCaprio, who played the role as Luke Brower. Now, his character came in the last season as a homeless kid that the Seavers took in, and his character also ended that same season before it was over because his appearance didn't reap the reward that the show was expecting. They wanted his appearance to increase the ratings by appealing to the teenage female audience, but it did not. The ratings stayed low. So therefore, he left. Now, before Growing Pains took place, he was in the industry, but it was a very slow start entering it. And even once he got in, it moved and dragged really, really slow. And I believe that had something to do with his behavior. He himself stated that his first gig was in the romper room, which has something to do with children. And he said because of his disruptive behavior, it ended. Now, the host of the show denied that being the reason for his release. But I say, why would he lie about it? And when you think about it and look at the rest of the history of his TV or industry, him being in the industry, it does agree with that analogy or what he stated, because when he landed the role in Growing Pains, Joanna Kearns, the mother on that show, stated that she remembered him being mischievous and playful on the set. And also in another role that he landed, Toby Wolf, in This Boy's Life, the director of that show stated that DiCaprio didn't know how to behave on set. And it was after that particular role that his career actually took off. So that, and that was because the director applied a strict mentoring style for DiCaprio. And he started improving in his craft, and he went on to do great things in the industry and much, much more. I mean, he has an impressive filmography that includes A-listers such as, I love this movie, What's Eating Gilbert Grape. Oh man, he did such a wonderful job as Arnie. He was the disabled brother of Johnny Depp's character. I can't remember Johnny Depp's character's name, but it was a wonderful movie, and even the critics stated how well he did in that movie and playing that disabled person, as for even down to the tics that he made in the movement. And I totally agree. He did a wonderful job. And of course, we cannot forget about those two movies that were his top grossing gigs. Titanic, yes indeed, and Catch Me If You Can. Both of those movies were great. I saw both of them and they were wonderful. He also played in another great movie, Blood Diamond. He played in Django Unchained. I did see that one, but it was by accident. My husband was actually watching it at night while I was in bed trying to go to sleep, and it was keeping me from my much needed sleep. However, I must say that Leonardo did a wonderful job as slave owner Kelvin Candy. But for me, the film was entirely too violent for my taste. Now, he also did The Great Gatsby and Wolf of the Wall Street. He then moved on to producing. In 2004, he founded Appian Way Productions. And the first thing that he produced there wasn't that successful. It was The Assassination of Richard Nixon that Sean Penn starred in. But then he co-produced produced Aviator with Scorsese, and that was his first success as a producer. He later had another successful production, which is the one he did called Revolutionary Road. That one grossed $75.9 million. Today, DiCaprio is still producing films, his latest one being the 2020 The Right Stuff. And as for acting, he's set to star in the upcoming May 2023 American Western crime drama film called Killers of the Flower Moon. Now, if you like the video, please give it a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button and notification bell because it doesn't cost a thing. And please tell us what you think about the video in the comments section. That's all I have now on Growing Pains. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you so much for watching, and please have a beautiful rest of your day. This is Shell signing out.